Well, I hate to disappoint you all, but for today, you are going to see a very happy Manchester United fan once again off the back of a 2-0 victory over Sunderland. A game where probably for the first time this season, there are massive, overwhelming positives and, to be honest, no outright negatives. I've got a couple of little criticisms like I always do, but for me, there are no glaring negatives from this game at all, and there are a bunch of overwhelming positives which fill me with a bit more confidence again going into the international break. I spoke about it in my prediction. I had no real confidence that we were actually going to win this game after the performance against Brentford, because at the moment you just don't know which Manchester United team is going to show up. It wouldn't have surprised me if we'd lost this game. It's not surprised me that we won this game, but I'm a little bit surprised at how comfortable it ended up being in the end, and that's due to how well that we have played today. Granted, doesn't mean anything going to Anfield in 2 weeks' time. We could go back to the performance we saw against City, we could go back to the performance we saw against Brentford, and we could get hammered and we'd be absolutely back to where we were, let's say, 2.5 hours ago. But today, we've got to talk about an awful lot of positives. And the first of those is that this was Manchester United's first clean sheet of the season, and it was in Sene Laman's first game for Manchester United. And this is also the first tick in the Ruben Amorim column for today's video. He changed the goalkeeper, and what a really good debut it was for Sene Lammens. Not just because, you know, he's come away with the clean sheet, but it's the nature of how he's got the clean sheet. He wasn't called upon as much as Bayindir was in any of Bayindir's games so far this season, and that's obviously not just on him, that's on a better overall team performance. But in the moments where he was called upon, there weren't really any dramas. There was one moment that I'll get to shortly, but the overall play was really good. He was commanding, he came out and dealt with crosses, there was no flaps, there was no punches, there was no pressure from the Sunderland set pieces. He was a commanding presence in the penalty area. He's a big lad, and you can tell that he is going to be someone that is going to be one of these commanding presences that I've asked for from a Manchester United keeper for a very, very long time. Furthermore, when he was called upon to actually make saves, he made saves. Long shot from Xhaka, going in the bottom corner, tips it behind for a corner, and then in the very last minute of the game, a 1v1 chance, clumps it down. Yes, Sunderland forward should do much better, for sure. But you've got to make that save. He made the save and preserved his clean sheet. Really, really good start for him. But the most interesting one for me, which will then lead me on to my next sort of big positive, is every single time Manchester United were under pressure, the ball went back to Lammens and he got rid of it. What a alien concept that is in this modern day world of play out of the back football. Every time Manchester United were in trouble, Lammens kicked it downfield. Sometimes, even when we weren't in trouble, he kicked it downfield. We did not give the ball away in our defensive third a single time in the entire match. Just let that sink in. From a Manchester United side that is constantly being criticised for how easily they give the ball away when they are pressed, we did not give the ball away once in our defensive third today, and that is because every single time, Lammens kicked the ball downfield. That's all there is to it. There were none of these risky passes from centre-backs into midfield, or balls from the goalkeeper into midfielders or into centre-backs under pressure. It just went long. Every single time. Really, really like to see that. I hope that's not something that's going to start changing as Amorim starts using this goalkeeper more. If we keep playing like that, we're going to be so much more secure at the back, purely because we're just getting the ball away from the areas where we keep giving it away. In doing that, it leads us on to our second positive and our second standout player for me today, which was Benjamin Sesko, who I thought had a fantastic performance because he was allowed to utilise his abilities way more because of the amount of service he was getting purely by Lammens just kicking it downfield. It brought him into the game. He didn't even have to win the ball half the time, but he's occupying a Sunderland centre-back. When he wins the headers, he's flicking it on into dangerous areas. If he doesn't win the header, the ball's then coming to Manchester United players because he's a constant threat, and the long ball brings our amount of midfielders into play. And even times he would suck someone in, he would just leave it, the ball would drop behind, and our two attacking midfielders would be creating chances in behind. Really, really good to see how Sesko was using that aspect of his game, but also everything else as well. When he was receiving the ball, he was holding it up well, he was spreading it out wide. A lot of our attacks started with Sesko today, just in that position of holding the ball up and spreading it out wide, getting it out to Ahmad, getting it out to Dalot, getting it out to Dorgu in the second half when that change was made. And that then created opportunities to get the ball in the box. Sadly for him, he wasn't actually on the receiving end of an outright chance of his own from open play, but when he got his chance, you best believe he took it. Long throw from Dalot, put in by Sesko. He's done his job today really, really well. And I'm so, so pleased for him because over the last couple of weeks, he's definitely looked better. He was one of our better players against Brentford last week, obviously scoring as well. But gradually, he's getting himself more involved. 2 goals in 2 games. Really happy for Benjamin Sesko. And my final standout player today, the person that I would have absolutely put on the thumbnail of this video, Mason Mount. What an unbelievable performance from Mason Mount it was. So much so that, you know, again, it's a humongous tick in the Ruben Amorim column for this game that he picked Mount ahead of Cunha. And there was a lot of drama around kickoff when the news was announced that Mount's playing ahead of Cunha. People could not believe it. I was surprised, genuinely. I wasn't like, okay, I'm not sure about that decision, but I was like, ooh, that's an interesting one. Let's see how this plays out. Well, not only did it play out well, but it is the reason why we won this football match. And multiple reasons why. Firstly, he scored his goal. Cunha's still yet to score so far this season. Brilliant take. And Burma puts the ball in, controls it out of the air with 1 foot, looks up, and then just side foots it on the volley, round the outside of the player into the bottom corner, puts Manchester United ahead. If that's not enough, I mean, because, you know, it was still a good performance from him anyway, but that would be enough to say, great, well done, Mason Mount. But the difference he had on the overall system is why it's such a huge tick for Ruben Amorim and why Mason Mount was my man of the match today. And that is because of how he would support the midfield. When we are defending normally, we end up getting overrun in that midfield. It's happened so many times, whether it's Casemiro and Bruno, Mainu and Ugarte, or any sort of combination in that midfield. We keep getting consistently overrun in midfield. Whenever we lost the ball, Mount was back. Immediately, Mount was back. We had a 3-man midfield when we were defending. It was basically 5-3-1-1 when Sunderland had the ball, when Mount was on the pitch, because he was getting so far back and getting involved and helping out the midfield. So much so that then when we turned the ball over, it almost became a 3-3-3-1. Because what would happen is, if Bruno reacted to the move forward before Mount did, Bruno would end up further ahead than Mount was, and Mount would just come and receive it, and then they'd interchange. And you'd basically have Casemiro as the 1 in midfield, with then Mbermo, Mount, and Bruno all creating attacking runs going forward, which then created even more space for the wide players, and it just made us all round better looking. And the reason why this is important, the reason why I can tell you why this was so good, is because of the reaction of how we performed when Mount came off and Cunha came on. Now, I don't think Cunha did anything necessarily bad today. I think he still was a threat. He got Xhaka booked. He had a good shot on goal. He was still lively. We know how good Cunha is. But within 2 minutes of Cunha coming on the pitch, Ruben Amorim went absolutely mad at him for not tracking back. Exactly the thing that Mason Mount had been doing all game. And it is very noticeable that in that second half, Sunderland were way more in the game after Mount came off and Cunha came on, because from that point onwards, Cunha wasn't tracking back as much. And it was so evident that that was the reason why we I'm not going to say struggle, because we were still in control of the game. But we were in less control of the game once Mount went off, because Cunha wasn't tracking back the way Mount was. He was still pressing. He doesn't stop running in terms of a pressing force. He was putting pressure on the centre-backs, running beyond Sesko to put pressure on the goalkeeper. He does that very, very well. But he doesn't want to take defensive responsibility in the same manner that what Mount does. And that's what was so important for us today. And that's why I'm pleased and impressed that Amorim did go with Mount over Cunha for the overall part of this match. Ultimately, that then leads us to the 2-0 victory that I'm very, very happy with. Slight criticisms I would have. Like I said, these are not negatives. These are criticisms of Manchester United today. Firstly, the substitutions. I wouldn't have taken Mount off if he's not fully fit, because we're still trying to get him back to full fitness. Fair enough, but I've already mentioned how Mount coming off and Cunha coming on made the side worse. The final 5 minutes were almost a complete disaster. Why he took Lenny Yoro off and put Harry Maguire on, I do not know. We almost did it. We almost made it through an entire football match without changing the back 3. The moment he changed that back 3, we nearly threw the game away. I'm not over-exaggerating that. We nearly threw the game away. Because you look at the chance that Sunderland have in the 88th minute, whenever it was, that chance does not happen if he doesn't take Yoro off and put Maguire on. It doesn't happen because it changed the structure. Yoro was in full control of that right-hand side of the pitch. De Ligt was in full control of that central area of defence. The moment he changed it, De Ligt was all over the place. Maguire wasn't tracking the runners properly. And before you know it, literally 2 minutes after they make that change, Sunderland have a one-on-one at Lammon's. And we've already spoken about the save, a brilliant save. But it's careless from Amorim. Because if they'd have scored that chance, we'd have had to defend 5-6 more minutes in a 2-1 situation, getting bombarded with the crowd incredibly nervous. Completely unnecessary change. And one he just needs to stop making. It's just unnecessary. You could have stuck with the back three. They were outstanding today. Yoro, fantastic. De Ligt, my player of the season so far. And even Luke Shaw didn't put a foot wrong defensively today. I thought it was fantastic. So I don't know why that was changed. And it nearly cost us towards the end of that football match. My other negative is yet again wasting potential in chances. If you've made it this far into the video, I've got a little challenge for you tonight. When you're watching Match of the Day or the highlights or wherever you're seeing the Manchester United highlights tonight or tomorrow, whenever you're watching this, every time a Manchester United player shoots, I want you to pause it. Every single time. And I want you to look at the Manchester United players that are in better positions than the person that is shooting. There's no secret, Manchester United have had the most shots in the Premier League this season. That's a good stat to have. It shows that we are creating chances. But the fact that we've still not scored that many goals from the amount of shots we're taking tells me and tells everyone else that we're not taking the right chances when we're choosing to shoot. There was a brilliant minute of play where Ahmad gets the ball, runs at the defence, Sesko peels away, all Ahmad has to do is slip him in, and instead he chooses to shoot. Makes a good save from Roof, don't get me wrong, makes a good save. But Sesko's in a better position, and he doesn't pass it, it's saved, and Sesko has a go at Ahmad for not passing it. Not even 1 minute later, Ahmad lends the ball to Mbermo, and Mbermo comes inside, Ahmad is in. If Mbermo slips it through the gap, Ahmad is through on goal. But just like Ahmad did 30 seconds earlier, and Mbermo with basically the exact same shot, forces the exact same save from Roofs, and then Ahmad has a go at Mbermo for not passing it. But here's the problem, Ahmad. You just did the exact same thing 30 seconds ago. And it keeps happening, and this is why we're not scoring as many goals as we should. Players are making good runs. They are finding good positions, but our selfish attackers are not looking for them, and they're not finding them because they all want the glory for themselves. Biggest moment of this comes, I think, about 10 minutes later again. Bruno Fernandes, wonderful attempt. One of the saves of the season from Roofs to tip it up onto the post. Ahmad is there. It's a really tight angle, and he tries to head it, and he heads it wide. Mason Mount is unmarked in the 6-yard box with an open goal. And all Ahmad has to do is head it there rather than trying to head it there, and it's a goal. And he doesn't, because he doesn't even look. He just sees, oh, I can score, and then tries to score. You take that little bit of composure just to knock it to the side, and it's a guaranteed goal. And I think that is the biggest thing that Manchester United need to be looking at the moment. We are creating a lot of chances. We are having a lot of shots on goal. We could be having better chances from fewer shots on goal if the players just start acting a little bit selflessly in the attacking areas of the pitch. But like I say, that's not a negative. That's just a criticism for now. That is something that can be improved on, because if we play like we did today, we are going to continue getting results. My only worry is that we don't consistently put in performances like today. It's really good that we've got our first clean sheet of the season. That's something to build on. We've had 3 consecutive home wins. That's a massive stat to improve on. But it has to be noted that those 3 matches have been against Burnley, a newly promoted side, Sunderland, a newly promoted side, and Chelsea, who had 10 men from the 5th minute. So let's not get carried away. Let's celebrate the positives. Let's have a good international break. Let's go to Anfield and try and give them a game like we did last year. Look, there is no shame in losing at Anfield in 2 weeks' time. There isn't. On paper, they're a better team than us. It's not a result we should be looking to get. Don't get hammered. Don't lose 7-0 like I did a couple of seasons ago. Go in there and try and put in a good performance like you did today, and I can come away happy even if we lose. But don't continue with this inconsistency. Keep building, keep developing, keep producing, and hopefully we can start picking up some more points over the next few weeks. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'm a very happy Manchester United fan right now. Let's see if we can carry it over to Anfield in 2 weeks' time. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I'll see you very soon.